sky above the silent alien planet suddenly burned with fire. A massive spaceship tore through the clouds, broken and out of control. Flames covered its surface as it crashed into the dark forest below. The ground shook hard, and the trees bent under the force of the impact. Far away, on a high silver tower, an alien princess stood still, watching the sky. Her sharp, glowing eyes followed the falling ship. Her face calm but serious. She had never seen anything like this before. No signal had warned them. No enemy had been detected. "Something is wrong," she whispered softly. Without wasting time, she moved quickly. Her long royal cloak flowing behind her, guards tried to follow her. But she raised her hand and stopped them. "I will go alone," she ordered. Her voice cold and strong. Moments later, she reached the crash site. The air was thick with smoke, and the smell of burning metal filled the area. The ship was completely destroyed. Broken into pieces, fire still burned around it, lighting the dark forest with orange glow. She walked slowly toward the wreckage. Careful but fearless, her kind had ruled many worlds. Nothing easily scared her, but today, something felt different. Then she heard it, a soft sound, almost too quiet to notice, a small cry. She stopped immediately, her eyes narrowing. "That is not possible," she said under her breath. She followed the sound, moving past burning metal and broken parts. The fire around her suddenly became weaker, almost like it was moving away from her path. Then she saw it, inside a half-broken escape pod. Something small was moving. She stepped closer and looked inside. A child, a human child. He was small, maybe just a baby. Wrapped in torn fabric, his face dirty but unharmed. His tiny hands moved weakly, and his eyes were closed as he cried softly. The princess froze. "Human," she whispered. Her people believed humans were weak, dangerous, and long gone from the galaxy. Some said they were experiments. Others said they were a mistake of nature. No one had seen one in many years, and yet, here he was alive. She stared at the child for a long moment, her mind filled with questions. How did he survive the crash? Why was he alone? And why did she feel something strange in her chest? Something she had never felt before. The child slowly opened his eyes. Bright, deep, and strangely calm, for a second. They glowed. The princess took a step back, surprised. That was not normal. Not even for advanced species. The baby stopped crying. He simply looked at her, silent and still. Then something even stranger happened. The fire around them began to fade. The burning flames slowly disappeared, as if an invisible force was pushing them away. The heat dropped, and the air became calm. The princess looked around in shock. This is not possible," she said quietly. Her heart started beating faster. This child was not normal. If the Empire found out, they would take him, study him, maybe destroy him. Humans were not allowed, especially not inside royal territory. She looked back at the child. He was still watching her, silent, almost as if he understood everything. For the first time in her life, the princess hesitated. She was trained to follow rules, to protect her empire. But something inside her refused to leave him there. Slowly, she reached into the escape pod and picked him up. He was warm and light, his small hand touching her arm. In that moment, she made a choice. "I will not let them take you," she said softly. She wrapped him in her cloak and turned away from the burning wreckage, her mind already planning how to hide him, how to protect him, behind her. The last flames of the crash disappeared completely. The forest became silent again, like nothing had ever happened. But everything had already changed. As she walked back toward the palace, holding the human child close, she did not know one thing: this small, silent child would one day shake the entire galaxy. A secret that could kill her. The palace was silent, but danger was everywhere. The alien princess walked through the long, shining halls, her steps calm, but her mind racing. Hidden inside her royal cloak, the human child rested quietly, not making a single sound. Every wall, every door, every light in the palace was controlled by advanced systems. Nothing could stay hidden for long, especially not a human. "Stay quiet," she whispered softly, even though the child did not understand. She reached a private chamber deep inside the palace, a place no one was allowed to enter without her permission. The door opened with a soft glow as it scanned her identity. Inside, the room was simple, filled with soft lights and advanced devices. It was the only place where she could hide him. At least for now. She placed the child gently on a soft surface. Watching him closely, he looked peaceful, almost too calm for someone who had just survived a crash. "Who are you?" she whispered. The child opened his eyes again, those deep, strange eyes that did not look like a normal human. For a moment, it felt like he was looking straight into her thoughts. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed in the room. "Alert! Unknown biological signal detected." The princess froze. A red light flashed on one of the walls, scanning the air around them. The system was trying to identify the child. "No," she said quickly, moving toward the control panel. Her fingers moved fast as she entered override commands. "Cancel scan code, Royal Override 7, for a second." Nothing happened. Then the system replied, "Error. Signal not recognized. Initiating full scan." Her heart started beating faster. If the system completed the scan, the entire palace would know, guards would arrive, and the child would be taken away, without thinking. She turned back to the child. "Please," she whispered, not even sure why she said it. At that exact moment, the child blinked slowly. The red scanning light flickered, then suddenly, it shut down. The room went completely silent. The system spoke again, but this time its voice was normal. "No threat detected." The princess stared at the wall in shock. That should not happen," she said softly. She looked back at the child. He was still lying there, calm and quiet. As if nothing had happened, a strange feeling grew inside her. This child was not just different, he was dangerous. But not in the way her people believed. Time passed slowly. Days turned into weeks. The princess rarely left her private chamber now. She gave orders from inside. Avoiding unnecessary attention, the child began to grow. Faster than normal, within a short time. He could sit, observe, and react like a much older child. He watched everything, the lights, the machines. The princess herself, his eyes were always focused. Always learning. One day, the princess placed a small floating device near him. It was a simple tool used for training young minds. "Can you see this?" she asked softly. The child did not answer, but he raised his small hand. The device suddenly stopped moving, then slowly. It changed direction. The princess stepped back, her breath caught in her chest. "He is not touching it," she whispered. The device floated in the air, moving exactly as the child wanted. Then it dropped. The child looked at her, and for the first time he spoke. "Light," he said in a soft voice. The princess felt a chill run through her body. "He is learning too fast," she said to herself. But the danger was growing outside as well. In another part of the palace, far from her hidden chamber, a high-ranking commander stood in front of a large screen. His sharp eyes studied the system reports carefully. "Strange energy fluctuation," he said slowly. The system replayed the moment when the scan had failed. The data was incomplete, but something was clearly wrong. "This is not a system error," the commander said. He turned to his assistant. "Start a quiet investigation. Do not alert the royal family yet." Back in her chamber, the princess stood near the window. Looking at the dark sky, the child sat behind her. Playing silently with light reflections, she knew the truth. Secrets like this could not stay hidden forever. And when the Empire discovered the human child, they would not show mercy. Behind her, the child suddenly looked up, his eyes glowing faintly once again, as if he already knew. that someone was coming. Here is part 3, The Child Who Learns Too Fast. Written in third person, simple English, around 700 words. And with commas instead of full stops for voiceover. Part 3, The Child Who Learns Too Fast. The palace looked peaceful from the outside. But inside, something was changing, deep in her hidden chamber. The alien princess watched the human child carefully. Days had passed, but he was no longer acting like a normal child. He was learning too fast. The boy, who once could barely move, was now walking slowly across the room. His steps were steady. His eyes focused on everything around him. He did not play like other children. He observed every light, every sound, every movement. Nothing escaped his attention. The princess placed a small learning device in front of him. It was designed for young alien minds, but even they needed years to understand it. "Try this," she said softly. The boy looked at the device for a few seconds. Then he touched it. The screen lit up instantly. Symbols appeared and changed rapidly. The princess frowned. "He should not understand this," she whispered. But the boy did not stop. His small fingers moved across the surface with strange confidence. Within minutes, the device completed its highest level test. The room went silent. "That is impossible," the princess said under her breath. The boy looked at her, tilting his head slightly. "More," he said calmly. The princess stepped back slowly. It was not just learning. It felt like he already knew everything, as if something inside him was waking up. Later that day, the princess walked around the chamber, thinking deeply. Her mind was filled with questions she could not answer. "Who created you?" she whispered. Behind her, the boy sat quietly. Watching the floating lights, he raised his hands slowly. The lights stopped moving. Then one by one, they began to change shape, forming strange patterns in the air. The princess turned quickly, her eyes wide with shock. He was not just controlling them, he was shaping them. "How are you doing this?" she asked. Her voice low. The boy looked at his hand. Then back at her. "I see it," he said simply. "See what?" she asked. "The space," he replied. Her heart skipped a beat. That answer made no sense. But somehow it felt important. Before she could ask more, the entire chamber suddenly went dark. All the lights shut off at once. The machines stopped. The air became still. The princess looked around quickly. "This cannot be happening again," she said. She rushed to the control panel, trying to restart the system. But nothing responded. Behind her, the boy stood up slowly. His eyes began to glow faintly. The darkness around him felt different, almost alive. Then suddenly, the lights turned back on. Everything returned to normal. The machines restarted as if nothing had happened. The princess turned slowly, her face filled with disbelief. "You did that," she said quietly. The boy did not answer. He only looked at her with calm, deep eyes. For a moment, she felt something strange again. Not fear, but something close to it. Far away, in another part of the palace, the commander stood in a dark control room, watching multiple screens. This time, the system had recorded everything. The sudden blackout, the energy spike, and something else, a shape. A small figure standing in the center of the disturbance. The commander zoomed in, his eyes narrowing. "A child," he said slowly. His expression turned serious. "This is no normal life form." He turned to his guards. "Prepare a silent search. No alarms, no attention. We find this, whatever it is, before anyone else does." Back in the hidden chamber, the princess sat beside the boy, her mind heavy with worry. She knew now that hiding him would not be easy anymore. The more he grew, the more his power increased, and soon, everyone would notice. The boy suddenly looked toward the door, his eyes focused. "Someone is coming," he said quietly. The princess froze. "What do you mean?" she asked quickly. But before he could answer, the chamber door made a soft sound. As if someone was trying to open it from the outside, the princess stood up immediately. Her heart racing. No one was supposed to come here. No one knew about this place, but somehow. They were already too late. Here is part 4. The Threat from Outside. Written in third person, simple English, around 700 words. And with commas instead of full stops for voiceover. Part 4. The Threat from Outside. The soft sound at the chamber door grew louder. The alien princess stood frozen for a second. Her heart beating fast. No one was supposed to be here. No one even knew this place existed. Behind her, the human child remained calm. His eyes fixed on the door. "They are here," he said quietly. The princess quickly moved in front of him. "Trying to stay strong. Stay behind me," she whispered. The door slowly began to unlock. A faint blue light appeared as the security system was forced open from the outside. Only high-level authority could do this, which meant one thing. Someone powerful had found them. The door opened. Standing there was the royal commander. Tall, armored, and silent, 2 guards stood behind him. Their weapons ready but lowered, the commander's sharp eyes moved across the room. They stopped when he saw the child. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the commander stepped inside slowly. "Your Highness," he said calmly. "You are hiding something dangerous." The princess did not move. "He is not dangerous," she replied firmly. The commander looked at the child again. "Everything I have seen says otherwise," he said. The child stared back at him without fear. That made the commander more serious. "Children fear soldiers," he said quietly. "This one does not." The princess took a step forward. "You should not be here. And you should not be breaking the laws of the Empire," the commander replied. The air in the room became tense for a moment. It felt like everything would fall apart right there. Then suddenly, the lights flickered again. The child's eyes began to glow softly. The commander noticed immediately. His hand moved closer to his weapon. "Stand down," the princess ordered quickly. But it was already too late. The machines in the room started to shake. Small objects lifted into the air. The energy in the chamber grew stronger. The guards stepped back in fear. "What is this?" one of them whispered. The commander remained still, watching carefully. "This is power," he said slowly. The child raised his hand slightly. The commander's weapon suddenly flew out of his grip. It hovered in the air, then dropped to the ground. Silence filled the room. The princess turned to the child. Her voice soft but urgent. "Stop, please." The child looked at her. For a moment, everything calmed down. The objects fell back to their place. The energy disappeared. The room became normal again. The commander took a slow breath. Now he was sure. "This must be reported to the king," he said firmly. "No," the princess said quickly. Her voice was stronger now, filled with emotion. "You do not understand," she continued. "He is not a weapon. He is just a child." The commander looked at her for a long moment. "You are risking everything," he said. "I know," she replied, before the situation could continue. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the palace. A deep warning sound filled the air. All lights turned red. The commander looked up immediately. "What is happening?" the princess asked. A voice from the system answered, "Warning. Unidentified fleet entering orbit." The room went silent again. "Fleet," the commander repeated. He moved quickly to a nearby screen and activated it. A large image appeared, showing space above the planet. Multiple dark ships were floating in the sky. Huge, silent, and threatening, the princess stared at the screen. "Who are they?" she whispered. The commander's face turned serious. "They are not from our empire," he said. "And they are not here by accident." At that moment, the system spoke again. Unknown energy signature detected. Origin traced to Palace Sector. The commander slowly turned his head. Back toward the child. They are here for him, he said quietly. The princess felt a cold fear run through her body. The danger was no longer hidden, it had reached them. The child stepped closer to her, looking at the screen. His glowing eyes reflected the image of the ships. They are afraid, he said softly. The princess looked down at him, confused. Afraid of what? She asked. The child looked back at her, calm and serious. Me, he said, outside in the dark sky. The enemy ships began to move, slowly surrounding the planet, preparing for something far worse. And inside the palace, the truth could no longer be hidden. Here is part 5, Betrayal Inside the Palace. Written in third person, simple English, around 700 words. And with commas instead of full stops for voiceover. Part 5, Betrayal Inside the Palace. The red alarm lights kept flashing across the palace. The sound of danger echoed through every hall. Inside the chamber, no one moved for a moment. The alien princess looked at the screen, her face pale. The enemy fleet was now fully surrounding the planet. They came too fast, she whispered. The commander stood still, thinking quickly. This is no normal attack, he said. They knew exactly where to come. His eyes slowly moved toward the child again. Everything pointed to him. The princess stepped in front of the child, protecting him. You will not touch him, she said firmly. The commander took a deep breath. I have no choice, he replied. The king must know everything, as if his words called it. The chamber doors suddenly opened again, this time. It was not just guards. The king himself walked in, tall, powerful. His presence filled the entire room. His glowing eyes were cold and unreadable. The princess felt her heart drop. Father, she said softly. The king did not answer her at first. His gaze moved slowly across the room. Then it stopped on the child. For a long moment, there was only silence. So this is the secret, the king finally said. His voice was calm, but heavy, a human. The word itself felt dangerous. The princess stepped forward quickly. He is not what you think, she said. He is just a child. He needs protection. The king looked at her. You broke the laws of our empire, he said. You hid an unknown life form inside the royal palace. I saved a life, she replied. Her voice shaking but strong. The king's expression did not change. You may have just started a war, he said. The room went silent again. The commander stepped forward slightly. Your Majesty. The enemy fleet is already in orbit. The king nodded slowly. They are here for this child. The princess shook her head. Then we protect him, she said. The king looked at her for a long moment. No, he said coldly. We hand him over. The princess felt like the ground disappeared under her. No, she whispered. The child stood behind her, silent. I will not allow that, she said louder now. The guards in the room immediately raised their weapons. The commander watched carefully, but said nothing. You are not thinking clearly, the king said. This is bigger than you. This is not about power, she replied. This is about what is right. The tension in the room grew heavy, then suddenly, everything changed. The child stepped forward, moving past the princess. No, she said quickly, trying to stop him. But he gently moved her hand away. I will go, the child said softly. The princess looked at him in shock. You don't understand, she said. The child looked at her, calm and quiet. I understand, he replied. The king watched this moment closely. Take him, he ordered. The guards moved forward. But the moment they came closer, the child's eyes began to glow brighter than ever before. The air in the room became heavy. Everything slowed down. The guards stopped moving. Their steps froze in place. The lights flickered slowly. Even the sound of the alarm became deep and stretched. The princess looked around in shock. "What is happening?" she whispered. The commander tried to move, but his body felt locked. "Time," he said slowly. The child stood in the center of the room, completely still, only he was moving normally. He looked at his hands as if testing something new. The entire world around him had slowed. The king's eyes widened for the first time. "This power," he whispered. The child turned toward the princess. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. Then he looked toward the king, and for the first time, there was something different in his eyes. Not anger, not fear, but something far more dangerous. Understanding outside the palace. The enemy ships prepared to attack inside. Time itself was bending around a single child. And nothing would ever be the same again. Here is part 6, The Truth of His Power. Written in third person, simple English, around 700 words. And with commas instead of full stops for voiceover. Part 6, The Truth of His Power. Time was still broken inside the chamber. The guards stood frozen, their weapons held in the air. The red lights flickered slowly like they were trapped in a dream. Only 3 could move, the child, the princess, and the king. The princess looked around in shock, her breath unsteady. She had never seen anything like this before. This is impossible," she whispered. The child stood quietly in the center of the room. His glowing eyes calm and focused. It did not look like he was trying hard. It felt natural to him. The king slowly stepped forward. His expression no longer cold. Now there was something else in his eyes, fear. "What are you?" the king asked in a low voice. The child looked at him. For a moment he said nothing, then he spoke. "I don't know," he replied softly. The answer made the silence even heavier. The princess moved closer to him, her voice gentle. "You are safe with me," she said. The child looked at her for a brief second. The glow in his eyes softened, then suddenly something changed. A strange pulse of energy spread through the chamber. The walls vibrated. The air felt heavy. Images began to flash around them, not real, but not illusions either, memories. The princess gasped as she saw visions appear in the air. Ancient worlds, bright and full of life. Strange beings, powerful and silent. And among them, humans, but not like the child. These humans were different. Their eyes shined like stars, their hands shaped energy. Their presence bent reality itself. "What is this?" the princess whispered. The child looked around, confused. "I see them," he said slowly. The king stepped closer, his voice shaking slightly. "Ancient records," he murmured. "Our oldest data spoke of a lost species," he continued. "A species that could control time, space, and energy." He looked at the child again. "They were not weak," he said quietly. "They were feared," the visions continued, showing a great war. The powerful humans fighting against many alien empires, not to destroy, but to protect something. Then suddenly, the humans disappeared. Vanished from history. The chamber returned to normal. The visions were gone. The princess looked at the child, her heart racing. "You are one of them," she said softly. The child lowered his gaze. "I don't remember," he replied. Before anyone could speak again, a loud explosion shook the palace. The time freeze shattered instantly. The guards fell to the ground, gasping. The alarms returned to full speed, loud and urgent. The commander grabbed his weapon again. Looking around, "What just happened?" he shouted. The system voice echoed through the palace. "Warning. Enemy fleet has begun attack." The walls trembled as another explosion hit. The princess looked at the screen. Outside, the sky was filled with fire. The enemy ships were firing powerful beams toward the planet. "We are under attack," the commander said. The king turned to the child, his decision clear. "This is because of you," he said. The princess stepped forward quickly. "No. This is because they fear him," she said. The child looked at the screen. His expression changed for the first time. There was emotion, not fear, not confusion, but something deeper, resolve. "They will not stop," the child said quietly. The princess looked at him. "What are you going to do?" she asked. The child stepped forward slowly. "I will protect you," he said, before anyone could stop him. He raised his hand far above the planet, in the dark space. One of the massive enemy warships suddenly stopped moving. Its engines shut down. Its weapons froze in place, inside the palace. Everyone stared at the screen in shock. The warship was completely still, like time had stopped for it alone. The commander's voice was filled with disbelief. "He is controlling it from here," he said. The king could not speak. The princess looked at the child. Her eyes wide. This was no longer a secret, no longer something small. This was power that could change everything. Outside, the frozen warship hung silently in space, and the rest of the fleet began to react, because now they knew he had awakened. Here is part 7, The One Who Changed the Galaxy. Written in third person, simple English, around 700 words, and with commas instead of full stops for voiceover. Part 7. The One Who Changed the Galaxy. The frozen warship hung silently in space. Around it, the rest of the enemy fleet stopped moving for a moment. Confused, uncertain, afraid, inside the palace. Everyone stared at the screen, unable to speak. The human child stood still, his hands slightly raised, his glowing eyes fixed on the sky. It looked easy for him, too easy. The princess stepped closer. Her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Please, be careful," she said. The child did not look at her. "They are still coming," he replied quietly. As if his words were a signal, the enemy fleet suddenly moved again. More ships began to charge their weapons. Bright energy gathered at their fronts, ready to destroy the planet. The commander shouted, "Shields are failing. We cannot stop that attack." The king stood silent, watching everything. For the first time he had no control. The child slowly lowered his hand, then he took a step forward. "I will end this," he said calmly. The princess reached out, trying to stop him, but she hesitated. Something inside her told her to trust him. The child closed his eyes for a moment. Everything became quiet. Then a wave of invisible energy spread from him. It moved faster than light, passing through the palace, the sky, and into deep space. When it touched the enemy ships, everything changed. Their weapons shut down instantly. Their engines stopped. Their systems went silent. But nothing was destroyed. The ships were still there, just unable to fight. Inside those ships, the enemy soldiers looked around in fear. Their controls did not respond. Their power was gone, back in the palace. The commander looked at the screen in disbelief. He disabled them all. He said slowly. The king took a deep breath. "This power could destroy the galaxy," he whispered. The princess looked at the child. "But he chose not to," she replied softly. The child opened his eyes again. The glow was still there, but now it felt calm, controlled. "They are not enemies anymore," he said. The princess frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked. The child looked at her. "They were afraid," he said. "They thought I was a weapon." The king stepped closer, his voice serious. "And are you not?" he asked. The child shook his head slowly. "I am a choice," he replied. The room fell silent again. Those simple words carried something deep. The child turned toward the large screen, looking at the silent fleet. Then he raised his hand one last time. The frozen warship slowly began to move again. Its systems restarted, but its weapons stayed offline, one by one. The rest of the ships returned to life, but they did not attack. Instead, they began to retreat. The massive fleet turned away from the planet, leaving slowly, silently. The danger was gone, just like that. The commander lowered his weapon, still shocked. I have never seen anything like this, he said. The king looked at the child for a long moment. Then slowly he bowed his head, not as a king, but as someone who finally understood. You are not our enemy, he said. The princess felt tears in her eyes, but she smiled softly. She placed her hand on the child's shoulder. You are not alone anymore, she said. The child looked up at her for the first time. He smiled, a small, simple smile. But it changed everything. Days later, the story spread across the galaxy. A human child, hidden in secret, a power no one could understand. Some feared him, some respected him, but all of them knew one thing. Humans were not weak. They never were. Back on the palace balcony, the princess stood beside the child, looking at the stars. What will you do now? She asked softly. The child looked at the endless sky. I will learn, he said. And I will protect. The princess nodded. The future was uncertain, but it was no longer something to fear, because the child who was once hidden from the galaxy had become its balance and its hope.